Hi, everyone, and welcome to TextBlaze's Masterclass for advanced users. My name is Nirali, and I'm so excited to have you all join us. Before we begin, I'd like to thank everyone for taking time out of their busy day to be here. Today's Masterclass will be taken by our community manager, Cedric, and we'll be covering a bunch of advanced features of TextBlaze. We'll be doing a live Q&A round after Cedric's presentation. In the meanwhile, we've got our CEO, Dan, who's dropping in to say a quick hello. Dan, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Good to see you. It's great to see some familiar faces as well as a lot of new faces. Hopefully, this is the first of a series of such events, and the goal is to help you be more productive and eliminate the boring aspects of your work using TextBlaze. And so please share your feedback and help us tailor these so we can make them as useful for you as possible. There's a lot to cover, so I'll keep this very short. Of course, if you're part of a team and you'd like to schedule a webinar for your team that's more tailored to your team's needs, we're happy to set those types of sessions as well. Just reach out to us and we'll schedule it. Enjoy the session. Nirali, over to you.
All right, we're ready to begin now. I'm handing it over to Cedric. We'll be doing a Q&A round at the end of Cedric's presentation. Cedric, handing over to you.
Thanks, Nirali, and thanks, Dan, for the intro. Psyched to be here. We've got a lot of ground to cover. Remember, we have the Q&A session, so if anything is unclear, you can ask there. And, of course, join the community where you can ask all sorts of questions and get help. Here are some examples of how I use TextBlaze as a bookmark manager for pages that I visit often or for documents that I visit often. I have the shortcut to the community.com with a double M for community. So if I go up in the URL bar, I type tb space and .com, which is my shortcut, it loads the community page. And we use this even inside TextBlaze itself, like for our FAQ documents or marketing documents. Whenever there's a document that we visit frequently, we just create a shortcut for it. We share it between the team, and we use it that way rather than clutter our bookmarks. But this is the email response snippet that I use to interact with the community when they ask me questions. This is a stripped down version of it, otherwise it would be quite complex. So if I type my shortcut here, /email, this pop-up comes up and I have a drop-down with 3 options. I won't go into how this works because it's rather involved and it would take 3 masterclasses just to cover this. But this is just to show you what is possible. Most people don't know that there's a keyboard shortcut for opening up the TextBlaze Assistant here in the extension. In my case, when I press Ctrl-Shift-Space, the Assistant opens up. I'm not touching my mouse at all. And all I need to do now is start writing in the search bar. For example, I type resolved. And you'll notice that what I wrote in the search bar gets matched in the title of the snippet, in the body of the snippet, and also in the shortcut. I just pick the snippet that I want to use, and I press enter, and it gets inserted without touching the mouse at all. And even if I make a spelling mistake, TextBlaze will try to match it. I wrote resolved incorrectly, but TextBlaze still managed to match it. I have this email template here. Now, if I use it as it is, it's just going to insert these as they are, and I'm going to have to replace them manually. But it's much easier if I insert a text field. The text field has an optional label that I can give it. So let's say I give it the label company, and I click insert. If we look at the preview, now we have a text field. But I want to reuse that value elsewhere in my snippet. All I need to do is remove this text or just highlight it. And down here you see that I have this capsule here with the name company. This represents the variable name of this text field. So if I click here, this gets inserted. Now, if I write TextBlaze here, you'll see that whatever I wrote here got replicated in here. Now, we can use these variable names in different scenarios. In formulas, for example, here I have a basic order form. So let's create a text field for quantity and give it a default value of 2. Add another text field for price and give it a default value of $2.99. Now here's where it gets interesting. I'm going to add a dynamic formula. And when I click in here, I can choose to use the variables from the text fields that I created. So quantity multiplied by price. And now when I insert it, my snippet automatically calculates the amount, the correct amount for the total price. So no matter what I put in these text fields, this will work itself out. And the $sign here in front was added because of the formatting. Now, I know I'm rushing through these, but there's extensive documentation about these and we have videos as well, so you don't need to worry about the thing. And even if you have questions, remember, you can ask in the community. Now, sometimes I need to manipulate the contents of my text field. I have this email template here. I'm going to insert a text field for the full name. And this is the default setting. As you know, the default setting fills in your text field ahead of time in case you have something that you often write. And obviously you can delete it and change it. Now, I want to extract just the last name from this field. So what I do here is I highlight this so that I can replace it. I insert a dynamic formula function split full name. And I'm going to remove the comma and replace it with a space. So what are we doing here? The contents of the text field called full name are going to be split at the space, which gives us the first name and the last name. But I only want the last name. So I just need to add the number 2 here in square brackets, which tells TextBlaze to only pick the second item in that list. Now, if we go to Gmail and type our shortcut, you'll see that the text was automatically filled with just the last name. If I were to replace this with my full name, I'd get my last name here. This is a bit of a more advanced example. I'm not going to go into the details of it, but I just want to show you what's possible. Here I have a spreadsheet with a row with details about Mr. Sherlock Holmes. I'm going to copy this row and I'm going to use it inside the snippet. Here I have the split command breaking up the clipboard contents. In case you don't know what the clipboard does, the clipboard simply replicates what's in your computer's clipboard so that you can then manipulate it. Because this is a spreadsheet, this data is separated by tabs. So here I'm breaking it up by tab stops, which is what the \T means. And then I'm picking the first item, the second item, the third item, fourth item, and assigning them to variables so that I can then reuse them elsewhere. And if we look at the preview, this is what we get. All of the data that you see highlighted in yellow has been extracted from this data. Moving on to the note command, which again is something that a lot of people seem to miss. Here I am importing the snippet that we used earlier, which is var1. I want to set a note for myself to remember to fill in the company name. Here is how I do it. Forms, note, and I just paste my note in here. And I can also format it. So now, the next time I insert this snippet, I get this note over here, which reminds me to insert the company name so I don't look like an idiot when I send out this email. The note was not inserted, but what you'll see here is that I have a bunch of white space, which does not look good. We can remedy that with the trim command. If I click here on this capsule and click on advanced settings, let's choose yes for now. The trim command will remove all white space on either side of this capsule here, of this command over here. And if I insert it, you'll see that the white space at the top is gone. However, my preview looks a bit cluttered. I'm going to remedy that by just adding a couple of line breaks here and changing the trim from yes to right. So now the trim is only going to remove the white space to the right hand side, not to the left. And if I look at my preview, you'll see that now I have a much cleaner look. Now, there's another setting that I'd like to show you with the note command. It's not something that you're going to be using very often, but it can come in handy. Now, this is an internal note. I don't want to be seeing this every time I insert my snippet. But I want it to be here in case someone decides to make changes. We're going to add the trim setting again. If I look at the preview, it's going to show up. But I can change the preview setting from yes to no. And if I look at the preview again, you'll see that the note is gone. Regex is short for regular expression, a sequence of characters that define a search pattern. Let's start by understanding, first of all, why I would want to use regex. Why is it useful? Let's say I wanted to find Richard Wolff's date of birth. I could use the search function, Control F, 12 June 1976. But that's only useful if I know the exact text. A workaround could be to try with the word born and then find the date accordingly and take it and copy and then paste it where I want to use it. But that's very cumbersome. So instead we can use the regex that I mentioned. Regex matches a pattern inside a piece of content. And this is what a command in TextBlaze using extract regex looks like. Here we would put the content that we want to search in our case, this paragraph. And here we would use the special characters that create our regex string. I have created a command with regex inside that allows me to match the date of birth. If I copy this, type my shortcut, now regex gives me this date. And the reason why regex does this is because it is matching 2 digits, a number of letters, and 4 digits. Now let's go a little bit deeper into how this works. If I use this snippet here that I created, using the same text, if I type my second snippet, here I extracted the first 2 words. This is some custom text that I created, and this is the date. Now, behind the scenes, this is the first part where we're extracting the first 2 words. And don't worry, I'll show you more in detail how this works. This is just to start getting you acquainted with what is possible. So this is the part that extracts the first 2 words. This is the custom text that I created. And this is the part that extracts the date. Let's go a little bit deeper into how regex works. As I said, this is what an extract regex command looks like in TextBlaze. So we have the curly brackets to denote that this is a command, equals extract regex, which is the function. We have the content, and then we have the regex itself. Now, I have assigned these to variables so that you can see dynamically what's happening when I change stuff around. I have this text, and notice that if I change it, it changes here as well. And here I have my regex string. Let's start with the simplest regex character, which is the dot. The dot matches every character inside your content except for new lines. So if I were to type a dot, you see I get the first letter, second dot, second letter, and so on, including spaces, until I get to the very end. If I keep going, I'm gonna get no matches. Now remember I told you that the dot does not match new lines. You'll see that if I keep adding dots, it's not going to keep reading. The dot is handy, but it's not really practical if I have a long sentence to just keep pressing dots. So for that, we use an operator called the plus. So we start with the dot and then we put plus. And plus tells regex that it should keep matching every character of this sort until it runs out. Now let's say I wanted to capture both lines. If I wanted to keep reading the text, if I wanted to keep capturing the text, I would have to capture the line break. To do that, I do \s and then dot plus to keep reading. That \s represents a line break. Now notice, if I put another line break, regex is not going to pick the next line up because it's only catering for one line break. So again, I can put the plus sign. So here, what we have is dot plus, which means match every character except line breaks till you run out. Then we have the \s, which is line breaks, and the plus telling it to keep matching as many line breaks as it finds. And then we have again the dot plus that tells it to match every character till it runs out. The next character I want to show you is the \w, and \w means match all letters and numbers. If I do \w plus, you'll notice that it stopped at the white space. So again, I would have to do \s, \w plus gives me another word, \s, and \w plus, and so on. Again, if you have multiple words, this isn't really practical. So for this, we use the square brackets. And what square brackets means is that regex should accept any one of the characters within that square bracket. So we're going to do \w and \s and plus. So what's happening here? The square brackets are telling regex to match all word characters, letters and numbers, and all white spaces. Match either one of these and keep matching, because of the plus, keep matching till you find a character that you can't match, that doesn't belong here, which is the dash. If I were to remove the dash, you'll see that it keeps going now. Next is the digit character, which is \d. \d matches any number. \d plus gives me that 555. Let's say I wanted to match the phone number. If I wanted to match the phone number in this particular format, that would be \d plus to match as many numbers as we can, then put the dash to match the dash, and then another \d plus. But what happens if the person who sent me this number did not use the dash there? Then I don't get a match. So for this, we use the optional operator, the question mark. And if I put a question mark after the dash, it means capture as many numbers as you can. If you find a dash, capture it. If you don't, skip it and move on to the next character, which is the \d plus. Again, I know this is a lot to take in, but don't worry too much about it. You'll get all of these with your pack. Two more things I want to show you. Let's say I have this text and I want to capture the name Sherlock Holmes. If I write name and \s, this will capture name and \s, and then I put dot plus, it captures till the end. But I don't want this first part. So what I do is I create a capture group using the parentheses. And the parentheses are telling regex, only capture this. Anything outside the parentheses, match it, but don't capture it. The final one is extract regex all. I'm going to just show you how it works, just to give you an idea. I'm using this regex command to match as many dates as I can in the text that I copied. And here you'll see that I got 5th April 1878, 26th October 1927. This can be used in a multitude of ways. There's a lot you can do with this, and I wish I had more time to show you more. But as I said, visit the community and you'll be able to get as many examples as you need. This is a new tool that our team has been working on. Here at the bottom, you'll see a menu called Insertion Context, and you'll find the command website text. So website text extracts the text of a website that you are on when you're inserting the snippet. When you create this command and you click on it, you can choose Select from Website. We go to Wikipedia and you'll see this yellow flashing here. Wherever I'm hovering my mouse, TextBlaze is trying to recognize the selector. So for those of you who aren't familiar with what selectors are, websites have selectors that are sort of identifiers, that are labels for bits of content. So the headline will have a particular selector with a particular name, and different websites will have their own naming conventions for selectors, which is why if I create a selector command for Wikipedia, it will work on Wikipedia, it won't work on I don't know, on Yahoo, for instance. But if I wanted to pick the headline on Wikipedia, I would highlight this, I would move my mouse until this is highlighted, and then I click and insert into snippet. And then when I insert my shortcut, it will give me this headline. There's an infinity of things that you can do. The whole point of this session is just to jog your imagination and get you thinking about the possibilities.
Thank you so much, Cedric. I think that was really helpful. We'll begin the Q&A round. So Varundeep would like to know, can we use TextBlaze as a password manager? Like, can it fill both things, username and password?
TextBlaze can be used as a password manager, and it has a special feature that is called autopilot that allows you to emulate different key presses. So if I were to create a snippet with my username Cedric De Bono, for example, and then have my password, if I use the autopilot tab key, I could then insert while you can use TextBlaze as a password manager, there are dedicated apps for that. TextBlaze was not created to be a password manager.
Varundeep, I hope that answers your question. Once again, we're taking live questions now. In the meanwhile, I'm reading out the questions that we received in the chat box. Chris has raised his hand, so I'm just going to unmute him.
Thank you for the presentation, Cedric. My question is, can we export a document for all of the snippets that can identify how frequently the snippets are used, when they were last used, and when they were last updated?
This depends on which subscription you are. You can always look at your personal usage here in the usage section, and it will give you some analytics. But if you're part of an organization, if you're using TextBlaze Business or Enterprise, then you will find a lot more detailed analytics that will allow you to see and download audit logs and see what your members are using and how many snippets they used and popular snippets and all sorts of stuff. And it also tells you snippets used to date, an estimate of the amount of time saved, and this is based on the average typing speed of a person, and also an approximation of how much money your organization saved by using TextBlaze. But again, this depends on what plan you are on.
Chris, it's available on the business. What you asked for is available on the business and the enterprise plan, as Cedric mentioned.
All right, so we have another Chris with a question, and how can I use HTML, CSS code? And after that, John will ask your question live.
So if I understand you correctly, you're asking me, Chris, whether you can use HTML and CSS inside TextBlaze. TextBlaze does not allow HTML and CSS inside it. But you could use it to put HTML, any frequently used HTML or CSS that you use, and just use it as a templating tool, right? So for instance, if you're always using the h1 tag and slash h1, I could create this, put a cursor in the middle, and when I insert this, the cursor goes right into the middle and I can type my headline. And it would make your HTML editing much more practical. You can use it with wiki markup as well. Anything you think of.
We have John with his hand raised and he's got a question. John, if you could please unmute yourself. Thank you.
Yep. Hi. My question was, when you were creating that email message using the variable split, can you create multiple messages, like from multiple lines? Like you highlighted just one line on a spreadsheet. Can you highlight maybe like 10 lines?
Yes, you could highlight 10 lines and first break it up by new line. And essentially what we would be doing is you would be breaking up every row into items and then breaking every item into columns and then use it accordingly.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Appreciate that, Cedric.
Absolutely.
We have one question that's written down. The question is, can TextBlaze be used to fill out website forms?
Yes, absolutely. You could do this by using the autopilot command, by using the tab key and enter key, and just navigating the form to be able to fill in a bit of data and then press tab and fill in another piece of data from the snippet.
Great. I hope that answers your question. Varundeep has a question in the chat box. We'd be closing soon, so if there are any more questions, please raise your hand and we can cover them.
While you unmute yourself, Varundeep, I saw your question about the desktop version. Yes, we definitely plan on releasing multiple versions of TextBlaze for multiple platforms, including mobile and desktop. I can't give you an exact ETA on that, but definitely on the cards. I don't see the capsule that you mentioned in my edit view. Is that a setting somewhere? Okay, Leland, I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. This is what you're seeing here is the new UI, which is being rolled out to all users gradually. What you see in your dashboard looks like this. If it has been rolled out to your account, then you will be able to turn it on and off from here. Account settings and options, and you'll see it down here.
So we're closing soon. If we have any last questions, please raise your hand or type it in the chat box.
From the forum, Kim asked whether we'll be adding real-time support for beginners or a class or something. As I said, we offer support via the forum and via our email support@blaze.today, and we're also planning a class for beginners.
We have a question from Zita. She wants to know. You mentioned some documentation, Cedric. Here we can find the details of, for example, of what /w and /d are exactly. I think this is to do with the regex bit of the presentation.
Yes, and we have a link for that, and I will add it in the class notes. And there are all of the commands and special characters that you can use, and combinations and examples.
One more question. Phil would like to know if we have an ETA for a Slack desktop integration. Dan, would you like to take that?
Sorry, it's a request we get every once in a while. It's definitely on the roadmap still, but no ETA yet.
I think we're done with questions.
Right. So shall we move on to the giveaway?
Yes, absolutely. So Dan has decided that the giveaway is going to be a TextBlaze swag bag. You're going to get your very own swag bag. And how we're going to decide the winner is we're going to be randomizing and picking one winner out of all the people who attended our masterclass. And if time permits, we can do this now. Cedric, do you want to randomize the winner and announce it now?
Yes, absolutely. So the first part of how I'm extracting all of the attendees, I can't show you because it's on the call window and you'd end up with an infinity screen. But I'll be using the selector command that I just showed you to extract all of the names of the people who are actually live with us right now.
While you set this up, Cedric, just very quickly, I want to remind everyone again. Cedric, as he mentioned multiple times, covered a lot of grounds here. And you can always ask us questions in the community forum or just email us. If you need any help for yourself or your team in setting up your snippets, or you have any specific questions about how TextBlaze can help you and your team be more productive, always happy to jump on the call and help as much as possible.
So let's get down to the giveaway. So I've extracted all of the names inside of the call right now, excluding myself and Nirali. I'm going to copy these, and then I'm going to use a special snippet using the randomizer command to pick out the winner. So I've copied all of those names inside my clipboard, and now I type -win. And we have a winner, Sarah Lasso Lopez. And Sarah, you won a swag pack from TextBlaze. Also, a little giveaway from my end. You also get a one-on-one session with me. So get in touch with me on cedric@blaze.today and let's set up a time that's convenient for you and come equipped with all of the weird and crazy questions that you can imagine about TextBlaze, and we'll sort it out.
Great. Congratulations, Sarah. And with that, I'd like to close today's session. Thank you, everyone. It was our pleasure to host you today. And on behalf of the entire team at TextBlaze, I'd like to thank you for joining us. If you've got any feedback or questions that we weren't able to cover, like Dan said, please feel free to drop in an email to our support team. I will be closing the session now. And once again, thank you for your time. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.